Hello and welcome to Workers' Comp Unwrapped, the podcast that simplifies workers' compensation for physicians. So let's get started. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 29 of Workers' Comp Unwrapped, with Anique, your host, and Angela, our guest, who has 15 years of experience in the industry.
Great to be here.
Today we are talking about holiday offers in WC, structuring seasonal incentives the right way.
It's a topic that comes up every single year without fail.
It really does. You know the drill. The calendar flips to November, and suddenly your inbox is just flooded with seasonal specials.
It's practically an American tradition, isn't it? Holiday discounts, loyalty bonuses, all that.
Exactly. Bundled packages, the usual commercial engine running hot before the year ends. And these feel like, routine, totally innocent ways to say thank you.
You build relationships.
Right. But we are diving deep into a stack of source material today that reveals what happens when those routine incentives get dropped into the highly regulated world of workers' compensation.
What happens is that you step directly onto a very slippery slope that auditors, they absolutely love to investigate.
Of course.
We're doing a deep dive into the specific compliance risks that come with any kind of holiday offer in workers' comp. And frankly, this is an area where just doing what you think everyone's doing is exactly how you get exposed.
And that's our mission today. We're here to give you, the listener, a shortcut to understanding the precise structures that can turn a seemingly harmless gesture,
A generous one even,
into a potential six-figure regulatory risk. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the core problem. Why is the risk here different or just inherently higher than in standard commercial healthcare settings?
Because loyalty programs and discounts are everywhere there.
Right. They're commonplace.
The complexity, it's really rooted in the structure of workers' comp itself. It's not just standard commercial contracting.
Like a different beast entirely.
It is. Workers' compensation is a state-mandated statutory system. It often operates as a quasi-public good, even when it's private companies providing the services.
Meaning the stakes for influencing a patient's choice are just much, much higher.
Exactly. The core compliance issue is that workers' comp sits at this intersection of, conflicting legal frameworks. Providers have to adhere to two major areas of scrutiny at the same time.
Okay, what are they?
First, you've got the state-specific workers' comp rules and their reimbursement schedules. And those are designed to control costs and, expedite treatment.
And those rules often have really strict prohibitions against things like fee splitting or certain financial relationships that could influence care. Right.
Precisely. They're all about preserving the clinical independence of the doctor or the case manager. But then second, you're also held to broader fraud and abuse standards.
Like state anti-kickback laws.
Right, which govern inducements in healthcare generally. The problem is, what you intend as a simple discount under a commercial contract can be seen by a state WC board as a prohibited inducement under their own very specific statutes.
So if I, as a provider, offer a carrier some fantastic year-end discount on diagnostic imaging, that might look like smart business to a commercial payer. But to a state auditor, it looks like I'm creating a financial reason for that carrier to steer injured workers to my facility.
Potentially without regard to the worker's actual clinical need or, what's closest to their home.
So the same dollar amount, just a radically different interpretation.
That is the critical insight you have to take away from this. The moment an incentive is tied explicitly or implicitly to utilization metrics, to volume, to preferential treatment, the red flag goes straight up.
Because the system is designed to stop money from overriding the referral process.
It's all about protecting the injured worker.
This is where it gets really interesting because we need to move from the high-level legal stuff and look at the specifics. What does the source material say is the single riskiest incentive we need to watch out for this holiday season?
Oh, that's easy. Unquestionably, it's the direct referral bonus. Our sources list common high-risk offenders, and this is always, always number one.
And providers try to camouflage them, I assume.
All the time. They call them marketing co-op funds, administrative grants, or my personal favorite, those year-end performance bonuses.
And I'm sure providers will claim, this isn't a referral fee. It's a reward for being a loyal partner.
That framing is completely irrelevant to an enforcement agency. In their analysis, your intent matters way less than the tangible effect.
What it actually does.
Right. If you connect something of value cash, gift cards, lavish entertainment, a steep discount to the act of referring injured workers, you have established a direct, undeniable link.
A link between a financial benefit and patient volume.
And that linkage is what auditors seize upon. every single time.
So if I'm hearing you right, the mechanism is the real killer here, not the gift wrap it comes in. A bonus is a bonus, whether I call it the Q4 thank you or the holiday appreciation fund.
Absolutely. Just think of it from the auditor's perspective 6 months down the line. They are not interested in your holiday spirit. They see an invoice or a payment ledger. It shows a $5,000 payment to a claims adjuster's office dated December 15th. Then they correlate that with a 30% jump in referrals from that same office starting January 1st.
And that's it? Case closed?
They will classify that payment as an inducement, plain and simple.
Do our sources give us any sense of the scale of penalties here? Because hot water can mean a lot of different things.
We are talking about potentially massive exposure. In WC, you can face state administrative penalties, you can be excluded from networks, and even face civil False Claims Act exposure if the inducement is seen as resulting in medically unnecessary services.
So for just one improperly documented bonus.
You could be facing fines that are multiples of the value of the bonus itself. It is not just a slap on the wrist.
That is a staggering risk for what often starts as just a modest attempt to build some goodwill. Okay, so if cash is the nuclear option, what about something a bit more subtle like year-end packages and bundled discounts?
Those look like standard commercial efficiencies, don't they?
They do, and that's why they are so tempting, but they require extreme caution. The risk here shifts from a direct payment for referrals to more like financial coercion that's tied to volume.
The crucial question you have to ask is this discount tied to proving administrative efficiency, or is it tied to capturing referrals or market share?
Okay, help us clarify that distinction. If I can prove that because you send me 50 patients a month, my admin cost per patient dropped by $10, and I pass that $10 saving on to you, isn't that defensible?
That is the area where the most nuanced and often the highest stakes battles are fought. You have to be able to prove with exhaustive documentation that the discount directly reflects verifiable actual cost savings.
And what if you can't prove those cost savings?
Then the discount structure looks highly problematic.
Yeah.
The real issues arise when the discount is contingent on things like hitting a specific volume quota by year end.
Or when it's only offered if the payer commits to using you as their exclusive provider going forward.
Exactly. That shift from a reward for past efficiency to an incentive for future utilization is what triggers the compliance alarm.
You mentioned the difference between high-risk and lower-risk discounts.
Yeah.
Let's really hammer that home for everyone listening.
Okay. A high-risk discount is selective. It's performance-based. It might only be offered to adjusters who hit certain metrics or only to carriers who promise a certain percentage of their regional patient flow. It lacks transparency.
It's a special deal.
It's a special deal. A lower risk discount, on the other hand, has to be transparent, consistently applied to all clients seeking that volume of service, and, most importantly, it cannot be conditional on the client steering patients.
So if you offer a bulk rate for 100 MRIs, every client who buys 100 MRIs gets that rate.
Regardless of who the patients are who referred them, that's the key.
That distinction, it's not just what's offered, it's what it's tied to. That seems paramount.
It is. If you can draw a clear line from the discounted price back to an expectation of patient steering, you have created a liability for yourself.
Which leads us to the crucial backstop for any of this, the documentation. Because even if you structure a truly low-risk discount, if you can't prove it, the auditor will just assume the worst.
They absolutely will.
So let's transition to the practical side of this. If a provider feels they have to move forward with some kind of holiday incentive, what exactly is good documentation? What's the paperwork they need?
Okay, the documentation needs to do three things. Prove fair market value, ensure consistent application, and clearly state the purpose.
Let's break that down. Fair market value first.
If you're giving any service away for free, like waiving admin fees, you need an internal record showing the fair market value of that service. And you need documentation that the waiver is offered to all similarly situated clients, not just the high-volume referrers.
So if I waive the $50 charge for paperwork, I need a policy that explains why that waiver is okay, and a log showing I waived it for client A, B, and C, no matter how much business they send me.
Precisely. And second, consistency is king. You need detailed audit logs showing who got the incentive, when they got it, and why they qualified.
And the criteria have to be objective.
Objective, based on things like contract size or geographic area, not based on the number of referrals you got from them. Poor documentation is so often the reason a small incentive snowballs into a major compliance problem months later.
Because without that trail, an auditor looking at records 6 months from now, we'll see an anomaly. Client X got a bigger discount than client Y, and the only logical conclusion they can draw
Is that client X was rewarded for sending more patients.
the burden of proof is always on the provider.
And that's often the hardest part, proving a negative. Proving that the discount was not intended to influence referrals. Your paperwork needs to be so robust that it proactively dismisses that idea.
That's a high bar.
It is. We strongly advise that any policy relating to gifts or incentives requires signed attestations from the staff member giving it out, stating they've verified the criteria and that the incentive is not tied to utilization.
That level of rigor, while it sounds like a headache, is basically the shield against regulatory action.
It is. It's about building a paper trail that makes the auditor's job hard. If they see a legitimate, policy-driven reason for every transaction, they move on. If they see selective benefits and no paperwork, they dig in.
Given all this, the heightened scrutiny, if providers want to genuinely show appreciation or build relationships during the holidays, what are some lower-risk alternatives? How do you steer clear of these minefields?
The philosophy should always be appreciation without expectation. You have to focus on gestures that are unequivocally not tied to referrals or utilization.
Things that provide a broad general benefit.
Exactly. Give us some specific, safe examples.
Instead of a volume bonus, focus on services that improve your client's efficiency across the board. Offering educational resources is very safe.
Like a free webinar for adjusters on a new state rule change?
Perfect. Or a best practices seminar on return work protocols. General appreciation events are fine too, as long as they are broadly open and reasonable in value.
So a catered lunch for the whole office, maybe, instead of an expensive dinner for one key decision maker.
That's the idea. And operational improvements are a great example. Investing in a faster digital authorization system that benefits everyone who uses it, regardless of their volume.
Exactly. Or offering to participate in joint community events, providing industry reports. These things strengthen the relationship by providing value that is completely unrelated to steering injured workers.
The risk profile changes the moment an expectation of sending patients or meeting a quota is attached.
That's the line in the sand. Keep the focus on improving operational partnership, not on increasing referral flow.
This has been incredibly detailed. So what does this all mean? If we sum it up for you, the listener, the core lesson is that holiday incentives in workers' comp require way more caution than creativity.
It's not the time to get clever.
No. What feels routine in a standard commercial setting, offering an aggressive discount or a year-end bonus, can look exactly like inducement under WC scrutiny. The standards are just different.
And when you're uncertain, slowing down for a thorough compliance review is always the cheaper option than cleaning up a regulatory mess later.
And you have to remember, the life cycle of these investigations is long.
Oh, it is. Inducement issues often surface 6, 12, even 18 months later when claims data is being reconciled or a competitor files a grievance. The proactive review you do today is the only thing standing between you and that future auditor.
So finally, as you reflect on your own organization's protocols, here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Given that cultural inconsistency and the discretion of individual employees are often the biggest risks,
They really are.
consider whether your current framework has specific written policies for gifts or bonuses, policies that clearly define maximum value thresholds and forbid any linkage to patient volume.
Because if you don't have that ironclad policy written down, are you unknowingly giving every employee the green light to decide for themselves what appropriate appreciation means in this highly sensitive field?
We hope this deep dive helps you navigate those seasonal minefields safely. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we encourage you to continue your deep dive into smart compliance practices. Thanks for listening to Workers' Comp Unwrapped. If you found value in today's episode, subscribe and share with fellow doctors. Stay informed and keep making a difference in your patient's care.